World leaders today reaching out to President-elect Donald Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin among the very first. The Kremlin said Putin expressed, quote, his hope to work together for removing Russian-American relations from their crisis state, end quote. And he was confident, he said, that, quote, equality, mutual respect, and a real accounting of each other's positions, end quote, would lead to constructive dialogue. Don't you love it when leaders talk like that? Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto tweeted, quote, I am confident that Mexico and the United States will continue to tighten its ties of cooperation and mutual respect, end quote. Peña Nieto said today he and Trump agreed to meet to discuss the future of bilateral relations. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu praised Trump in this video message.
You are a great friend of Israel. Over the years, you've expressed your support consistently, and I deeply appreciate it. I look forward to working with you to advance security, prosperity, and peace. And I'm confident that the two of us, working closely together, will bring the great alliance between our two countries to even greater heights.
And there's this rather dire warning from Jack Ma, the CEO of Alibaba and one of China's richest men and something of a global ambassador for the Chinese state. Quote, if they, Trump and China, don't work with each other, it's going to be a disaster, end quote. Now, there is a nice positive thought to start things out. Thank you, Jack Ma. Joining me now, former Pentagon official, member of Trump's National Security Advisor Committee, Fox News contributor K.T. McFarland. Great to have you here.
Good to be with you.
Chief economist for Moody's Capital Markets, John Lonski. Thanks so much for being with us, John.
Thank you.
K.T., Jack Ma is a bit much to start with on any level. But he's one of China's global ambassadors, and he starts this nonsense. This is not a very smart thing for the Chinese to do. And they're used to being smart.
Yeah.
But Obama seems to, well, let them lower their standards a bit.
Well, they're used to pushing us around, and they're certainly pushing us around in the South China Sea, trying to claim one of the world's great trade routes for an internal Chinese lake. At the same time, one of the leading Chinese military guys said, we're looking at we may have a confrontation with the United States. We, China, we built up our military, and we're gonna, if the United States doesn't back down, essentially, we're going to head to trouble. But I think what's interesting about what you just said, this is a new opportunity, a new president, but particularly a Trump president who thinks outside the box. You know, he's not a status quo guy.
Yeah, but it makes it all the more aggravating
that the Chinese
that son of a gun would start that way, and the Chinese would start that way.
That's
John.
not a fight they win.
China needs the U.S. consumer. And, you know, today we're focusing on that equity market rally. The Treasury bond market got clobbered. You know, one of the worst days for the Treasury bond market since July of 2013, the taper tantrum.
Right.
One of the reasons, supposedly, behind the sell-off of Treasuries was the sale of Treasury bonds by China. And they have been reducing their holdings of U.S. Treasuries for some time.
So for the last
and they sell it and puts upward pressure on yields. And if yields rise too far, too fast, 2.06 in one day, 20 basis points.
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff of which partnerships are not made. And it does send a signal, a strong signal, particularly when you have all sorts of investment now being called upon by the president-elect to be returned to this country. This is really dumb on the part of the Chinese, and I'm used to them being smart. But they're being dumb, they're being blunt, and they're going to create issues that are not going to be helpful to them.
No, and I think they were expecting a Hillary Clinton presidency, and Hillary very famously said, well, you don't pick a fight with your banker. You can't get tough with your banker. All of a sudden, they got a guy who's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Maybe they gave a lot of money to the Clinton Foundation. Who knows? Investments not paying off. I have no idea.
By the way,
I'm being comical.
Yeah, well, of course you are, and as great economists are wont to be. One of the issues here, obviously, is whether or not we can get this economy moving. Donald Trump has talked about bringing back the immense trillions of dollars, $2.5 trillion, and most people think that's a conservative number that corporate America has in accounts overseas for investment in this country. With that $2.5 trillion, let's take that number. I mean, you could stimulate the dickens out of this economy and do so in very quick order.
Well, that's provided that companies want to go ahead and put that in capital equipment and the like and not redistribute that money to shareholders through equity buybacks, special dividends or whatever. You know, it could be M&A activity too that could fund. But in the long run, that might be
not
good.
likely to be M&A activity, and I would say the reason for that is there is no real benefit from it. It creates concentration, and neither Trump nor the Obama administration is particularly fond about talking about oligopolies of, say, 4 actors or fewer in any industry. I mean, it's time for people. Trump talks about competition, and suddenly you see Wall Street talking about, oh, well, we could start putting that money into dividends. We could do clawbacks. I mean, paybacks. Excuse me, clawbacks sounds so rough.
Equity buybacks. Yeah, stock buybacks. Yeah. Well, the problem with that, though, of course, is why do companies want to merge? Why do they want to acquire other companies?
Because they've run out of ideas and they've run out of opportunities.
Precisely. Organic revenue growth isn't there.
And that is what we don't want to see any more of. We've had a belly full of that. We want to see growth. We want this engine revving up to 4.5%.
So we have to have tax cuts there, not only for corporations, but for individuals as well.
And regulatory reform, and it's Moody in America again.
And redo health care reform.
Well, we've taken care of so much already. And it's only the first day of the President-elect's new world. So we thank you very much. Katie, thanks.
Thank you.
Watch the Chinese, watch those Russians, watch those Iranians carefully for us, will you?
You got them. I got them under control, and Donald Trump's going to put them right where they belong.
Excellent. John, thanks. It's great to see you, my friend.
My pleasure.
And you watch those son-of-a-guns.
Okay.
All right, we got everybody under a watch tonight.